Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. From Boundary to Bear Lake, Fremont to Payette, Oahe to Oneida, there are interesting people, places, and histories in all of Idaho's counties. And Idaho Matters wants to share it with you with stories from all 44 counties that make up the Gem State. Email your ideas to idahomatters@boisestate.edu or use the Talk to Us feature in our app, available on Apple and Android, and tune in each weekday at noon for Idaho Matters. More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. In 1984 in Los Angeles, a 39-year-old woman ran the inaugural Women's Olympic Marathon. She finished the grueling race, bent over and barely able to walk, but she crossed the finish line and became an example of endurance and perseverance. Gabrielle Anderson-Shias lives in Sun Valley now, and her incredible story is just one of many Olympic athletes. And it's been chronicled in a new book, Hero Redefined: Profiles of Olympic Athletes Under the Radar. Gabrielle is joining us now to talk more about her story, along with author Doug Levy. They will both be at the Community Library in Ketchum next Wednesday, July 30th, to talk more about this. But first, they're joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So nice to have both of you. And Gabrielle, can I begin with you? Tell us about the 1984 Olympics. I mean, how did you get there?
It was kind of amazing because I was already getting up in age, and I was still running, but just locally, some marathons and races. And then I found out that they would have the first time a marathon for the women in 84 in the Olympics. And I ran a marathon the year prior in Boise. And some people came up to me and said, "Oh, you qualified to go to the American trials."
Huh.
And so I started to think a little bit about this a little bit more, and also contacted the federation in Switzerland to see what their prerequisite were to run in that original marathon. And then they told me what I had to do, that there was a certain standard I had to run, and I had to run a couple big marathons and just beat a time limit. And so then I started to set my sights on that.
Gabrielle, this was a grueling race for you. How did you keep going?
I think mainly it was the first marathon for the women in the Olympics, and for me it was really a big deal to be able to participate in it. And I kind of knew, looking at my age, and I thought, I don't think I have another chance, and I don't want to just quit.
So, Doug, how did you find out about Gabrielle's story?
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the Olympics, Gemma, and I have a vivid memory as a young 20-something watching the Olympics and watching what happened with Gabrielle. So she was one of the inspirations for me for this book. And I will tell you that you're hearing again this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, Gabrielle is a very modest person. She was a very talented athlete and marathon runner, and that's why she was there for that first marathon in Los Angeles. And to me, she embodies everything that's great about the Olympics and everything a young woman would want to see in a role model on how to persevere and how to finish and how to exercise unbelievable willpower.
Doug, I don't know what it is about the Olympics, but I'm there with you where I am drawn in by the Olympics. There's always just such inspiring stories that we find out about. And we should note that in your new book, Gabrielle's story is just one of the many. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other athletes you profiled? Because I believe you profiled 13 of them, but what is another one that stood out to you?
Oh, it's a little bit, Gemma, like being asked about your kids and which one you like best. I love them all. There's, as you said, 11 chapters on 13 athletes, and then there's two more about heroic efforts associated with venues. But Gabrielle stands out in my mind. There's a biathlete named Tracy Barnes who made an incredible decision um, on behalf of someone else who wasn't going to be on the U.S. biathlon team going to Sochi in 2014. There was a marathon runner named John Aquari from Tanzania and what he did to finish a marathon. A 200-meter sprinter in Australia named Peter Norman, who actually won a silver medal, but it's what he did afterward on behalf of human rights. That was the Olympics with Tommy Smith and John Carlos and the Black Power salute. There's so many of these athletes in the book that I found so remarkable. And really, I tried to tell the story of incredible athletes who typically didn't win a medal, but if you just peel back a couple layers on, your normal fixation with gold and silver and bronze, you'd find all these great stories. And I tried to tell some of them.
I so agree with you. It's those untold heroes that sometimes get overlooked in the Olympics. As I mentioned, both of you will be at the Ketchum Community Library on July 30th next week. You will be talking, Gabrielle will be talking about her experience. Doug will, of course, also be talking about the book. So I want to thank both of you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk with us about this. We've been speaking with now Sun Valley resident Gabrielle Anderson-Shias, who ran the inaugural women's Olympic marathon in 1984, and she is featured in the new book, Hero Redefined: Profiles of Olympic Athletes Under the Radar. It was written by author Doug Levy, and as I mentioned, it will be at the Ketchum Community Library on July 30th. Thank you both so much for coming in and chatting with us. This is the Idaho Matters podcast. I'm Gemma Gaudette.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.